Hi, I'm Lindsay of Lindsay Jane Design.
Hi, my name's Keaghlan Ashley of Red Till Dead Design, and this is how I made the Talos makeup for Marvel Becoming. As a character designer and as a sculptor and a mold maker and a makeup artist, I'm always looking for kind of the next character that I can, tackle. And with, my workshop, I can make this character come to life. It's always really fun to me to work with a new cosplayer who may have worn some prosthetics before, but maybe necessarily haven't had like custom stuff made for them. I met Dave doing another makeup for him. When we needed a cosplayer for this, he was kind of one of the first people to come to my mind. I knew he had done a lot of Marvel cosplay to begin with, so he had an excitement for the subject matter.
It was a very exciting opportunity to be able to do a full face prosthetic, be able to be a villain, be able to be something that I normally wouldn't just pick out of a lineup and be like, I'm gonna do that. That seems really cool. It's just gonna be fantastic. Everybody is gonna not really know who I am or who's underneath, and it's gonna be really cool because, that's a Skrull. You don't know who they're gonna be next.
When I was called to do Talos, I pretty much broke down the reality of how to make the character. And so it's a bit of reverse engineering, figuring out okay, so I know I'm gonna need to do a set of ears, I know I'm gonna need to do his, very much pronounced face. He's a bald character, so there's some kind of bald cap, maybe some kind of sculpted piece for his head. And then, he's got some detailing in his neck, he's got, his hands and fingernails. So it's basically figuring out all of the pieces that would go into making the puzzle that is Talos. From there, we need to do a life cast to be able to sculpt each piece so it reflects exactly the face shape of our actor or our cosplayer. I chose to do a silicone life cast so that way I could, if need be, replicate his head multiple times. And so from there, I was able to put stone hydrocal into the life cast and create a 3D version of his head. So now that the life cast is done, I go ahead and sculpt. Sculpting is taking clay and basically roughing out the shapes and creating a three-dimensional version of a finished makeup. It took me about a week to get everything sculpted. So a mold is a 3D negative version of our sculpture. And so once I had my sculpted pieces, I floated them, put them on their head forms, and then molded them. From the mold, I was able to cast them in silicone. I would say the most challenging part of the costume for me was actually doing the encapsulated silicone prosthetics. Like any new material, it does require a little bit of learning. So even though it was challenging, it was something that I was really, really kind of personally insistent that we do. From the silicone prosthetics, I will apply them onto our actor. We'll take all of our custom-made prosthetics and apply them to Dade, our cosplayer. We're gonna go ahead and put a bald cap onto him. So a bald cap is very close to a swimmer's cap. It basically smooths down the hair. In this case, it's a latex, almost like balloon rubber, and it basically creates a smooth head. We're gonna apply the ears first, so that way he can still kind of hang out in the bald cap and ears, make that comfortable for him. And then from there, we'll have the neck piece applied, and then we blend any kind of irregularities. We've got encapsulated prosthetics for his hands as well, and then we'll give him his kind of signature claws. Most cosplayers, actors, whoever, they tend to tear up with contact lenses. They are sclera lenses, so they're a little bit more of the full eye. So they can be a little uncomfortable at first. It's better to put them in before we get all the makeup done because we want to keep the makeup intact and not have to do any unnecessary touch-ups. From there, we'll go ahead and apply the prosthetic, and we basically, with adhesive, we glue it to his face. We want to make sure that the prosthetic blends as seamlessly into each other and as well as his skin as possible. We want this to look like his skin. Basically make it so that we're ready for paint. With our paint job, we go ahead and seal our bald cap in, and then using alcohol activated paints, we can airbrush and kind of color match him to look exactly like Talos. and then he'll be ready to suit up.
It was a very cool thing to have Marvel contact me in general, because I will always be a Marvel girl. But seeing the initial photos of the costume that I was going to create was pretty daunting, because it is a very intricate piece. So the costume consisted of our main piece, which is the jacket. It has a detachable standing collar, and it's gonna make it really easy for makeup application. It consists of some gloves, pants, and his tall boots. My first step when I see pictures that are sent to me of the references is I take out my tablet and I start sketching every section of the garment. I have to know exactly what fabrics go where, what pattern's getting painted on them, what colors I'm gonna be using, and I'll write down every single detailed note as to what's going to get placed in what order. Next step after doing the sketching is always fabric selection. The reality is that most of these costumes that we see in the MCU are custom made fabrics. They're custom printed, they're custom painted, and that's something hard for a cosplayer who's working at home to replicate. Then I start making a list of all the alternative ways I can make that same effect. Measurements are always a big thing. I have to get a feel for who the person is, what their body type is, because you can have flat measurements and you're still gonna kind of go through the steps of having to fit it still. So getting his measurements, kind of feeling out what he's comfortable in is a huge part of the process. After that, it's sitting down, making that jigsaw puzzle of a pattern. I actually painted everything before I sewed it, so each panel was completely hand painted before the construction, and then it's just piecing it together from there. I think that it's important to realize that within not only cosplay, but how we do things in the film and television industry is that a lot of things are bought already and modified to fit our needs. So the boots for this costume I did purchase and modify. I altered them a little bit to make sure we had like a really nice sleek touch to them. I think the most challenging part of this costume overall was probably the collar. He has this standing kind of sloped collar, and it's a very cool design element. I'm not very experienced with armor making or anything like that. I actually had a really good time constructing that part. I'm really happy with the result, but it was definitely the hardest part of it. Comfort is a huge part of cosplay. Being comfortable in your costume is a huge part of being able to wear it for an extended period of time. So playing into your strengths and what you know you can handle when you wear it for an extended period of time is definitely something you need to consider. I would say that this project overall has taken me 5 to 6 total 12-hour days. It's a really good feeling when you start getting all of those pieces start to come together, because I drafted a pattern. I know it's gonna be a jacket. I know it's gonna be pants. It still just looks like flat pieces. Once it starts getting sewn down and then sewn together is when you really start seeing that progress. Integration is one of the biggest parts of costuming. Making the costume but not seeing any of the makeup or some of the other elements is a trust thing. I put my trust in the other person that they're going to complete a product that is going to look just as amazing, but it's also kind of a nice surprise at the end.